Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike and watched the stars through the main screen. The massive battleship moved through space like a metal giant, its hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. Jake had commanded this ship for 3 years now, and he still felt proud every time he looked at the control panels and crew stations around him. The Thunderstrike was Earth's most powerful warship, built with the best technology humans had ever created. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over the weapon controls as she ran another system check. She was young but very skilled, and Jake trusted her completely when it came to the ship's weapons. Commander Pete Sullivan worked at the engineering station, making sure all the ship's systems ran perfectly. His team kept the massive engines running and the shields strong. Ensign Lisa Chang monitored communications from her station near the back of the bridge, listening for any messages from other ships or space stations. The Thunderstrike was on patrol duty in the Outer Rim territories, far from Earth and the main shipping routes. This was dangerous space where pirates sometimes attacked merchant ships and where strange signals came from unknown sources. Most captains found this duty boring, but Jake liked it out here. The crew stayed sharp, and they never knew what they might discover. Lisa suddenly looked up from her station with a confused expression on her face. She pressed her earphone closer and frowned as she listened to something only she could hear. After a few moments, she turned to face Jake with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," she said, her voice filled with excitement and worry. "But it's not like anything I've heard before. The language is completely unknown, and the signal pattern doesn't match any Earthship or known alien communication system." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact with alien life was something every space captain dreamed about, but it was also extremely dangerous. Earth's contact protocols were very strict about these situations. Any ship that discovered aliens was supposed to report back to headquarters immediately and wait for special first contact teams to arrive. "Put it on speakers, Lisa," Jake ordered. "Let's all hear what we're dealing with." The bridge filled with strange sounds that seemed almost musical but were clearly words in some alien language. The voice sounded desperate and frightened, repeating the same phrases over and over again. Even though they couldn't understand the words, everyone on the bridge could hear the fear and urgency in the alien voice. Amy turned from her station with a worried look. "Captain, my sensors are picking up massive energy signatures from the direction of that signal. Whatever is happening over there, it's big." Pete checked his instruments and shook his head. "The signal is coming from about 12 light years away, in a system that's not on any of our star charts. My computers show no record of any Earth ships ever visiting that area." Jake stared at the main screen, thinking hard about what to do. The protocols were clear, but that alien voice sounded so desperate. How long would it take for a first contact team to reach this location? Days, maybe weeks. If these aliens were really in trouble, they might not have that much time. "Lisa, can you clean up that signal? Maybe our translation computers can figure out what they're saying," Jake asked. Lisa worked quickly at her station, adjusting frequencies and running the alien words through every translation program the ship had. After several minutes, her computers started putting together rough translations of some words. The results appeared on her screen, and her face went pale. "Captain, I think I've got some of it translated," she said quietly. "The words I can make out include help, dying, planet, and something that might mean invasion or attack. There's also a word they keep repeating that sounds like Vraxx, which might be their planet's name." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. If these aliens were under attack, every minute they waited could mean more deaths. but breaking first contact protocol could end his career and get his entire crew in serious trouble. Amy spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm also detecting what might be weapons fire in that system. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases, but they definitely look like some kind of space battle." Commander Sullivan turned from his engineering station with a serious expression. "Sir, if we're going to investigate, I need to know now. A jump that far will use a lot of fuel, and if we end up in a fight, I want our engines running at full power." Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people who had served with him through dangerous missions before. He could see in their faces that they all wanted to help these unknown aliens, even though it meant breaking the rules. "Lisa, try to send a response signal back to them," Jake decided. "Use mathematical patterns and basic symbols to let them know we received their message and that help is coming. Amy, plot a course to that system and prepare all weapon systems. Pete, I want maximum power to engines and shields. We don't know what we're flying into." The crew jumped into action immediately. Lisa worked on creating a response signal that would tell the aliens that someone had heard their call for help. Amy programmed the navigation computers with the coordinates for the alien system and began checking all the ship's weapons. Pete started bringing the massive fusion engines up to full power, making the whole ship hum with energy. As the Thunderstrike prepared to jump to faster than light speed, Jake opened a ship-wide communication channel to address his entire crew. "Attention all hands, this is the captain speaking. We have received a distress call from an unknown alien species. We are about to make first contact with beings from another world who appear to be under attack. This mission goes against our standing orders, but I believe it's the right thing to do. Every member of this crew volunteered to explore space and protect those who cannot protect themselves. Today we get the chance to do both. All departments prepare for possible combat operations. We jump in 5 minutes." Jake closed the communication channel and returned to his captain's chair. Through the main screen, he could see the stars beginning to shift as the ship's navigation system locked onto their destination. In a few minutes, they would make the jump to faster than light speed and arrive in a completely unknown system where aliens were fighting for their lives. Pete called out, from engineering, "All systems ready, Captain. Engines are at full power and shields are charged. We're ready for anything." Amy confirmed from tactical, "All weapon systems online and ready. Course is plotted and locked in." Lisa looked up from communications with excitement and fear in her voice. "Captain, I just received another transmission from the aliens. My computer managed to translate more of it. They call themselves Zorathians, and they're saying their whole species is about to die. They're begging anyone who can travel between stars to come help them." Jake took a deep breath and gripped the arms of his chair. "Take us out, Amy. Maximum speed to the Vraxx system." The stars on the main screen suddenly stretched into lines of light as the Thunderstrike jumped into faster-than-light travel, racing toward the unknown to answer the desperate call of aliens they had never met. The Thunderstrike dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vraxx system, and Jake Morrison immediately wished they had brought more ships. The main screen showed a scene that made his blood run cold. Where there should have been a peaceful alien world, he saw destruction on a scale he had never imagined possible. The planet Vraxx hung in space like a wounded animal. Parts of its surface glowed with fires that could be seen from space, and massive clouds of smoke covered entire continents. Chunks of metal and debris floated in orbit around the planet, the remains of what had once been defense platforms and space stations. But worst of all were the alien ships that swarmed around the planet like hungry insects. Amy Rodriguez stared at her tactical display with her mouth open. Captain, I count 37 enemy vessels, but they're unlike anything in our databases. They look more like living creatures than ships. Jake studied the alien vessels through the main screen's magnification system. Amy was right. They did look alive. The ships had organic curves and what appeared to be breathing movements along their hulls. Some were as large as Earth's biggest space stations, while others were smaller but moved with the quick grace of predators hunting prey. Pete Sullivan called out from engineering with alarm in his voice. Captain, these readings don't make sense. Those ships don't have normal engines or power sources. My sensors are detecting biological processes instead of mechanical systems. It's like they grew these ships instead of building them. Lisa Chang worked frantically at her communication station, trying to contact the planet's surface. Static and interference filled most frequencies, but she managed to find a weak signal coming from somewhere underground on the planet. Her translation computers worked to decode the alien language they had learned during their journey. Captain, I'm getting a transmission from the planet, Lisa announced. It's very weak, but I think they're hiding in underground shelters. They call the attackers devourers, and they say these creatures have been consuming their world for 6 days now. Jake felt sick as he realized what that meant. These devourer creatures were literally eating the alien planet and everyone on it. The peaceful Zorathians were being consumed alive by monsters from space. Dr. Helen Carter rushed onto the bridge from her science laboratory. She had been studying the biological readings from the alien ships, and her findings were disturbing. Captain, based on my analysis, these devourer ships are definitely alive. They appear to be some kind of space-going creatures that feed on organic matter from planets. They're not just attacking the Zorathians, they're harvesting them and their entire world for food. Amy checked her weapon systems and turned to Jake with a grim expression. Sir, we have enough firepower to maybe take out 3 or 4 of those smaller ships, but there are too many of them. And those big ones look like they could destroy us with a single hit. Jake studied the tactical display showing the overwhelming number of enemy ships. The Thunderstrike was powerful, but it was just one ship against an entire invasion fleet. However, he noticed something interesting about how the Devourer ships moved. They seemed to follow simple patterns like animals, following instincts rather than thinking military commanders making strategic decisions. Dr. Carter, do these creatures show any signs of intelligence, or are they just following basic feeding instincts? Jake asked. Helen examined her readings more carefully. From what I can tell, they operate more like a hive mind focused on consumption. They're incredibly efficient at destroying and harvesting, but they don't seem to adapt their tactics or respond to unexpected situations very well. This gave Jake an idea. Human military training emphasized adaptability and creative thinking in combat situations. If these devourers only followed instinctive patterns, then unpredictable human tactics might give the Thunderstrike an advantage. Despite being outnumbered, Lisa suddenly looked up from her station with excitement. Captain, I'm getting a clearer signal from the planet. I think I can establish two-way communication with the Zorathian survivors. Put them through, Lisa. It's time we introduced ourselves properly. The main screen flickered and then showed the image of an alien unlike anything humans had ever seen. The Zorathian had a tall, graceful form with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal. Its face was beautiful but sad, with large eyes that showed both intelligence and desperate hope. Unknown beings, the alien said in accented but understandable English. I am High Counselor Xylan of the Zorathian people. Your arrival gives us hope that was almost lost. We have never encountered your species before, but you responded to our call for help across the vast darkness of space. Jake stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "High Counselor Xylan, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Thunderstrike. We are humans from the planet Earth, and we came as soon as we received your distress signal. Can you tell us more about these devourer creatures and how long you can hold out?" Xylan's crystalline features showed relief at finding someone willing to help. "Captain Morrison, the devourers appeared in our system 6 of your days ago without any warning. Our people are peaceful and have never known warfare like this. We built our civilization around art, science, and philosophy, not weapons and conflict. Our defense systems were no match for their biological ships." Dr. Carter stepped closer to the screen, fascinated by the aliens' unique biology. "High Counselor, I'm Dr. Helen Carter, our science officer. Can you tell us how many of your people are still alive?" Dr. Carter, when the attack began, our world had 12 million Zorathians. Now perhaps 2 million survive in underground shelters that the devourers have not yet found. They consume everything organic on the surface, and they will eventually break through our hiding places. We estimate we have perhaps 2 more days before they reach the deepest shelters. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. 2 million lives depended on what he decided to do in the next few minutes. The smart military decision would be to retreat and call for reinforcements, but those reinforcements would arrive too late to save anyone. Amy had been quietly studying the devourer fleet movements while the captain talked with Xylan. She turned from her station with a thoughtful expression. "Captain, I've been watching their patrol patterns. The devourers seem to move in predictable cycles, like they're following programmed instructions. They don't post sentries or maintain formations, like a real military force would." Pete added his own observations from the engineering perspective. "Sir, their biological ships are powerful, but they don't seem to coordinate very well. Each one appears to operate independently rather than as part of an organized fleet." This confirmed Jake's theory about the devourers being driven by instinct rather than intelligence. A plan began forming in his mind, dangerous but possible if his crew performed perfectly. "High Counselor Xylan," Jake said, "we're going to help your people, but I need you to do something for us. Do any of your planetary defense systems still function? We need to know everything about your technology that might still be operational." Xylan's eyes brightened with hope. "Captain, most of our orbital platforms were destroyed, but we have defense satellites that went into hiding mode when the attack began. They're powered down and disguised, but they could be reactivated if someone knew the proper codes. Can you give us those codes and control frequencies?" "Yes, but Captain Morrison, you have only one ship against dozens of devourer vessels. How can you possibly succeed where our entire defense fleet failed?" Jake smiled grimly. "High Counselor, your people are peaceful and had no experience with warfare. Humans, unfortunately, have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned to be very good at it, especially when we're protecting innocent lives." Lisa worked quickly to download the Zorathian defense codes, while Amy began planning attack vectors that would take advantage of the devourers' predictable movement patterns. Pete started calculating power requirements for the kind of high-intensity combat they were about to engage in. "Captain," Helen said quietly, "even with our advantages, we'll be taking enormous risks. If we fail, both our crew and the remaining Zorathians will die." Jake looked around at his bridge crew and saw determination in every face. These were people who had volunteered to explore the dangerous unknowns of space, and now they had the chance to save an entire alien civilization. "High Counselor Xylan, we're going to attack the Devourer fleet and try to drive them away from your planet. When we begin our assault, I need your people to be ready to reactivate those defense satellites. If we can coordinate our attacks properly, we might have enough firepower to make the Devourers think twice about staying here. Captain Morrison, may your human spirits give you strength and wisdom. The Zorathian people will never forget your courage, whether you succeed or fail." The communication ended, and Jake turned to face his crew. The next few hours would determine whether the Zorathians survived as a species or were completely consumed by the organic monsters that had invaded their world. Commander Pete Sullivan moved through the engineering decks like a man possessed, shouting orders to his teams as they worked to prepare the Thunderstrike for the most dangerous battle of their lives. The massive fusion reactors hummed at maximum power, while technicians crawled through access tunnels to install emergency modifications that would push the ship beyond its normal limits. "Johnson, I want those shield generators running at 110%, Pete called to one of his engineers. "Yes, I know that's above safety ratings, but we're going to need every bit of protection we can get. Martinez, start preparing the emergency power couplings. If we lose main power during the fight, I want backup systems ready to take over instantly." Throughout the ship, crew members worked frantically to prepare for combat. In the weapons bays, torpedo teams loaded every available missile tube, while energy weapon technicians calibrated the massive beam cannons for maximum effectiveness against biological targets. Damage control teams positioned emergency repair equipment at key locations, knowing they would probably need it before the battle was over. On the bridge, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez studied the tactical situation with the focused intensity of a chess master planning her next 20 moves. The Devourer ships moved in slow, predictable patterns around planet Vraxx, like vultures circling a dying animal. Amy had identified several weaknesses in their formation that could be exploited if the Thunderstrike attacked from unexpected angles. "Captain, I've been analyzing their bioships more carefully," Amy reported to Jake Morrison. "The largest ones seem to be command vessels that coordinate the smaller attackers. If we could take out one of those big ones, it might disrupt their entire operation in this area." Jake studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet. The largest Devourer ship was nearly twice the size of the Thunderstrike and protected by a swarm of smaller vessels. Getting close enough to attack it would require flying through a wall of enemy fire. Dr. Helen Carter arrived on the bridge carrying a portable computer full of biological data about the Devourer creatures. Her research during the past few hours had revealed crucial information about how these organic ships functioned. "Captain, I think I figured out how their bioships work," Helen announced excitedly. "They're not really individual creatures. They're more like organs in a larger organism. The big ships are like brains that control groups of smaller ships, which act like hands and claws. If we can destroy enough of the control ships, the smaller ones should become confused and disorganized." This confirmed Amy's tactical analysis about targeting the command vessels first. But Jake knew that destroying those heavily protected ships would require getting dangerously close to the entire Devourer fleet. Ensign Lisa Chang worked at her communications station to maintain contact with the Zorathian survivors, while also monitoring Devourer transmissions. The enemy creatures communicated using biological signals that her computers could barely detect, but she was learning to recognize patterns in their activity. "Captain, the Zorathians report that Devourer ground forces are getting closer to their deepest shelters," Lisa announced with worry in her voice. "High Counselor Xylan says they can hold out for maybe 18 more hours before the creatures break through their final defenses." That meant the Thunderstrike had to act soon, or the remaining Zorathians would be consumed while the humans were still preparing for battle. Jake made the decision to begin their attack, even though preparations we're not completely finished. Amy, I want you to plot an attack course that takes us around the edge of their formation, Jake ordered. We'll hit the smallest command ship first to test their response time and tactics. Pete, as soon as we engage the enemy, I want you to bring those hidden Zorathian defense satellites online. Amy worked quickly to program an attack vector that would approach the Devourer fleet from the direction of the system's sun, hopefully using the bright star's radiation to mask their approach until the last possible moment. Pilot Officer Ryan Beck sat ready at the flight controls, his hands steady despite the nervous excitement he felt. Ryan was the best pilot on the ship, capable of making the Thunderstrike dance through space like a much smaller vessel. He would need all his skills to keep them alive during the coming battle. Captain, attack course programmed and ready, Amy reported. We'll approach from the sunward side and come up underneath their formation. That should give us a clear shot at the smallest command bioship while keeping most of the enemy fleet on the wrong side of the planet. Jake opened a ship-wide communication channel to address his entire crew before they entered combat. All hands, this is the captain. In a few minutes, we're going to attack an enemy fleet that outnumbers us 37-1. The odds are against us. But we have advantages they don't expect. We can think creatively, adapt to changing situations, and fight with a determination that comes from protecting innocent lives. Every person on this ship volunteered to explore space and defend those who cannot defend themselves. Today we do both. All stations report ready for combat operations. Reports came in from every department confirming their readiness. The weapons teams were loaded and prepared. Engineering had all systems running at maximum efficiency and damage. Control teams stood ready to repair battle damage. Most importantly, every crew member understood what they were fighting for and why the mission was worth the risk. Take us in, Ryan, Jake commanded. Attack speed. The Thunderstrike accelerated toward the Devourer fleet, its engines pushing the massive battleship faster than it had ever moved before. On the main screen, the organic enemy ships grew larger as the distance closed rapidly. Chief Petty Officer Maria Gonzalez led the damage control teams through final preparations, positioning emergency equipment at critical locations throughout the ship. Maria had served on military vessels for 15 years and had never seen a situation this dangerous, but she trusted Captain Morrison's leadership and knew her crew would perform their duties no matter what happened. "Gonzalez to all damage control teams," she announced over the internal communication system. "Remember your training and stay focused on your jobs. We're going to take hits during this fight, but we'll keep this ship running and get everyone home safely." Dr. Carter remained on the bridge to provide scientific analysis of the Devourer bioships during combat. Her understanding of their biological nature might reveal additional weaknesses that could be exploited during the battle. As the Thunderstrike approached the enemy formation, Ryan Beck made subtle course adjustments to keep them in the sun's radiation shadow for as long as possible. The pilot's skill and the ship's advanced stealth systems allowed them to get surprisingly close before the Devourers detected their presence. "Contact," Amy announced from her tactical station. "The enemy is starting to react to our approach. The smaller bioships are moving to intercept us, but they're not coordinating very well. It looks like they're just following basic defensive instincts." Jake watched the tactical display as dozens of alien ships began moving toward the Thunderstrike, like a swarm of angry insects. In a few minutes, they would be in weapons range and the real battle would begin. "Amy, target the smallest command ship and prepare for maximum firepower assault," Jake ordered. "Lisa, send the activation codes to those Zorathian defense satellites. Pete, give me everything the engines have got." The Thunderstrike raced toward its first target, while Devourer bioships converged from all directions. The human crew had trained for situations like this, but none of them had ever faced enemies quite like these living alien vessels. 30 seconds to weapons range, Amy called out, her fingers dancing over the targeting controls as she locked onto the enemy command. Ship. Zorathian defense satellites are coming online, Lisa reported. I count 12 platforms activating around the planet. They're not very powerful individually, but together they should provide significant support fire. Jake gripped the arms of his captain's chair as the moment of truth approached. In a few seconds, humanity would engage in its first real space. Battle against alien enemies, fighting to save a species they had only just met. Fire when ready, Amy, Jake commanded. The Thunderstrike opened fire with every weapon it had, sending a devastating barrage of energy beams and missiles toward the Devourer command ship. The battle for Vraxx had begun. The Thunderstrike's weapons struck the Devourer command ship like hammers hitting an egg. Energy beams tore through the organic hull while missiles exploded in brilliant flashes that lit up the darkness of space. The alien bioship writhed in, apparent pain as green fluid leaked from massive wounds in its living armor. Amy Rodriguez watched her targeting display with satisfaction as the enemy vessel began to lose power and drift helplessly through space. Direct hit, Captain. That command. Ship is finished, and look what's happening to its escort vessels. Jake Morrison stared at the tactical screen in amazement. As the command bioship died, the smaller Devourer vessels that had been following its orders suddenly became confused and disorganized. They flew in random circles like insects whose nest had been destroyed, no longer able to coordinate their attacks effectively. Outstanding work, Amy, Jake said with a grim smile. Dr. Carter was right about their hive mind structure. Take out the brain and the body stops working properly. But their celebration was short-lived as dozens of other Devourer ships throughout the system began converging on their location. The destruction of one command vessel had gotten the attention of the entire invasion fleet, and they were not happy about losing one of their own. Pete Sullivan's voice crackled over the communication system from the engineering decks. Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from the larger bioships. Whatever they're preparing to do, it's going to be big. Ryan Beck threw the Thunderstrike into a series of evasive maneuvers as the first wave of Devourer attackers reached weapons range. The smaller bioships fired streams of organic projectiles that looked like living missiles, each one trying to burrow into the human ship's hull to consume it from the inside. Those aren't normal weapons, Dr. Helen Carter observed as she studied the incoming fire. They're more like parasites designed to eat through our armor and hull. Our shields should stop them. But if any get through, they'll start consuming the ship itself. Amy worked frantically at her weapons station, shooting down the organic missiles while targeting the bioships that launched them. The Zorathian defense. Satellites added their firepower to the battle, but their weapons were designed for peaceful purposes and were much weaker than military systems. Lisa, can you coordinate our attacks with those satellites? Jake called out as the ship shook from near misses by enemy fire. I'm trying, Captain, but the Zorathian weapons systems are very different from ours, Lisa replied while working at her communication station. Their technology is based on crystal formations that focus energy rather than the plasma and kinetic weapons we use. The battle intensified as more Devourer ships joined the fight. The Thunderstrike found itself surrounded by alien vessels that attacked like a pack of hungry predators. Ryan Beck's piloting skills kept them alive as he flew the massive battleship through impossible maneuvers, dodging attacks while positioning the ship for Amy's return fire. Chief Petty Officer Maria Gonzalez led her damage control teams through the ship as enemy fire began taking its toll. Several organic missiles had penetrated the outer shields and were trying to eat through the hull. Her teams used cutting torches and emergency sealants to stop the alien parasites before they could breach the inner compartments. Damage control. To bridge, Maria reported over the communication system. We've got 3 hull breaches on Deck 7, but we're containing them. Those organic weapons are nasty, but they don't seem to like our emergency foam. It's poisonous to them. This gave Dr. Carter an idea. Captain, if our emergency sealant is toxic to their organic weapons, it might work against their bioships too. Can we modify our missiles to carry that foam instead of regular explosives? Pete Sullivan answered from engineering before Jake could respond. I can do that, but it'll take at least 20 minutes to modify enough missiles to make a difference. Can we hold out that long? Jake looked at the tactical display showing more enemy ships approaching from all directions. 20 minutes seemed like 20 hours when they were already outnumbered and taking damage. But if they could find a way to make their weapons more effective against the biological hulls, it might turn the tide of battle. Do it, Pete, Jake decided. Amy, concentrate our fire on the next closest command ship. If we can take out another one, it might buy us the time we need. The Thunderstrike changed course toward a larger Devourer command vessel that was coordinating attacks by at least a dozen smaller bioships. This target was much better protected than the first one, surrounded by escort vessels and defended by streams of organic weapons fire. Ryan Beck pushed the ship's engines to their absolute limits, accelerating toward the enemy formation at speeds that made the hull groan under the stress. Enemy fire filled the space around them like a deadly storm, but the pilot's skill and the ship's advanced shields kept them alive long enough to reach weapons range. Firing all weapons, Amy announced as she targeted every gun on the ship at the enemy command vessel. The concentrated firepower from the Thunderstrike struck the alien bioship with devastating effect, but this time the target was much tougher than the first one. Instead of being destroyed immediately, the command ship absorbed the damage and began regenerating its organic hull like a living creature healing from wounds. It's repairing itself, Dr. Carter said with shock in her voice. The larger ships have some kind of self-healing ability. We're not doing enough damage to overcome their regeneration. Jake felt his heart sink as he realized they might not have enough firepower to destroy the larger command ships, even with all their weapons firing at once. The Devourers had evolved these creatures to be nearly indestructible, capable of healing from attacks that would destroy normal ships. Captain, incoming transmission from the Zorathian underground shelters, Lisa called out urgently. High Counselor Xylan says Devourer ground forces have broken through their outer defenses. They estimate less than 6 hours before the creatures reach the main population centers. The situation was getting desperate. The Thunderstrike was taking damage faster than the crew could repair it. They couldn't destroy the larger enemy ships with conventional weapons, and the Zorathian civilians were running out of time. Jake needed to find a new strategy quickly, or both his crew and the aliens they came to save would be consumed by the Devourer invasion. Pete, how long until those modified missiles are ready? Jake demanded. 15 more minutes, Captain, but I'm not sure they'll be enough. We need something bigger, something that can do massive damage to that regenerating bioship. Jake stared at the main screen showing the enemy command vessel slowly healing from their attack while its escort ships moved closer to the Thunderstrike. In 15 minutes they might all be dead, unless he could think of something desperate enough to work. An idea began forming in his mind, so dangerous that it would probably destroy the ship even if it succeeded. But with millions of alien lives at stake and his crew already committed to this fight, Jake decided it was worth the risk. "Pete, can you overload our main reactor to create a massive energy surge through our forward weapons?" Jake asked quietly. There was a long pause before Pete answered, and when he did, his voice was very serious. "Captain, that would create an explosion powerful enough to destroy anything within several thousand kilometers, including us. The reactor containment wouldn't survive that kind of overload, but it would take out that command ship and probably several others around it." "Yes, sir, it would definitely do that." Jake looked around at his bridge crew, seeing understanding in their faces about what he was considering. Amy nodded slightly, showing that she was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to save the Zorathians. Ryan Beck kept flying the ship, through enemy fire, ready to follow orders no matter how dangerous they were. Lisa continued coordinating with the surviving aliens, determined to help them survive even if it cost her own life. "Prepare the reactor overload, Pete," Jake commanded, "but give me 5 more minutes to see if we can find another way." The battle continued to rage around them as the Thunderstrike fought against impossible odds, its crew refusing to surrender even when victory seemed beyond reach. Commander Pete Sullivan worked frantically in the engineering section, his hands moving over control panels as he prepared the most dangerous procedure of his career. Overloading the fusion reactor would create an explosion powerful enough to destroy the largest Devourer command ships, but it would also vaporize the Thunderstrike and everyone aboard. His engineering teams understood what they were preparing to do, and not one of them suggested abandoning the plan. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as more Devourer bioships closed in around them. The enemy seemed to sense that the human vessel was weakening, and they attacked with increased ferocity. Organic missiles struck the shields in waves, while larger bioships moved into position to deliver killing blows. Amy Rodriguez fired the ship's weapons as fast as they could recharge, but for every Devourer vessel she destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The alien fleet was vast, and the Thunderstrike was just one ship fighting against overwhelming numbers. "Captain, the modified missiles are ready," Pete reported from engineering. "I've loaded them with concentrated emergency foam that should be highly toxic to their organic hulls. We have enough for 1 full barrage." "Fire them at the damaged command ship," Jake ordered. "Let's see if our new weapons can finish what we started." Amy launched all 20 modified missiles at the regenerating Devourer command vessel. The missiles struck the bioship and released clouds of toxic foam that spread across its organic hull like acid. Instead of healing its wounds, the alien creature began dissolving as the human chemicals ate through its living armor. "It's working," Dr. Helen Carter announced excitedly. "The foam is breaking down their biological structure faster than they can regenerate. That command ship is finished." The death of the second command vessel threw another group of smaller Devourer ships into confusion, but there were still several more command bioships coordinating the attack. Worse, the largest Devourer vessel in the system was now moving toward the Thunderstrike, clearly intending to destroy the troublesome human ship personally. This massive bioship was 3 times larger than any they had faced so far, with thick, organic armor that looked capable of withstanding anything the Thunderstrike could throw at it. Dozens of smaller vessels escorted it like an honor guard, creating a wall of enemies between the humans and their target. "Captain, that thing is enormous," Ryan Beck said as he struggled to keep the ship away from the approaching monster. "Our weapons won't even scratch something that size." Jake was about to order Pete to proceed with the reactor overload when Lisa Chang suddenly looked up from her communication station with excitement and hope in her voice. "Captain, I'm receiving transmissions from outside the system," she announced. "Multiple ships are approaching at faster than light speed. The signal patterns match Earth military vessels." Jake felt his heart leap with hope. "How many ships, Lisa?" "I count 12 vessels, sir. It looks like Admiral Kate Richardson's task. Force from the Centauri station. They must have received our initial distress call and came to investigate." On the main screen, space suddenly filled with flashes of light as 12 Earth battleships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The reinforcements had arrived just as the Thunderstrike was preparing to make its final desperate attack. "Admiral." Richardson's voice came over the communication system, clear and confident. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Richardson aboard the UES Defiance. We received your transmission about first contact and alien attack. Looks like you could use some help down there." "Admiral, am I glad to hear your voice?" Jake replied with relief flooding through him. "We've got approximately 30 enemy bioships attacking a peaceful alien world. The creatures are called Devourers, and they're trying to consume the entire planet and its population." "Understood, Captain. All ships, this is Admiral Richardson. We have hostile alien vessels threatening the extinction of an intelligent species. All weapons are authorized for immediate use. Let's show these creatures what happens when they threaten innocent lives in human space." The Earth fleet spread out in a perfect attack formation, their combined firepower many times greater than what the single Thunderstrike could provide. The Devourer bioships suddenly found themselves facing a coordinated assault by experienced military vessels working together with deadly efficiency. Amy Rodriguez coordinated the Thunderstrike's weapons with the fleet's attack, targeting specific enemy vessels while the other ships focused their fire for maximum effect. The combination of traditional weapons and the new toxic foam missiles proved devastating against the organic hulls of the Devourer fleet. "Captain, the enemy is breaking formation," Amy reported as Devourer ships throughout the system began retreating toward the edge of the star system. "They're abandoning their attack on the planet. But the largest command bioship refused to retreat. Instead, it accelerated toward the planet Vraxx itself, apparently intending to consume as much of the world as possible before the human fleet could stop it. Admiral Richardson recognized the threat immediately. "All ships concentrate fire on that massive bioship. We cannot let it reach the planet's surface." 12 Earth battleships turned their weapons on the giant Devourer creature, filling space with energy beams and missile explosions. But the monster's thick organic armor absorbed the punishment while it continued its dive toward the helpless alien world below. Jake realized that conventional weapons would not stop the creature in time. It would reach Vraxx's atmosphere in less than 3 minutes, where it could begin consuming the planet's surface and the millions of Zorathians hiding in underground shelters. "Pete, is the reactor overload still ready?" Jake asked quietly. "Yes, sir, but Captain, we have reinforcements now. There's no need for us to sacrifice ourselves." Jake watched the massive bioship getting closer to the planet with each passing second. The other Earth ships were doing everything they could, but their weapons were not penetrating deeply enough to stop the creature's advance. "Admiral Richardson, this is Captain Morrison. I'm going to ram that bioship with the Thunderstrike. Our ship is already damaged, and we're the closest to intercept." "Negative, Captain. I will not authorize a suicide mission when we have other options." But Jake had already made his decision. "Ryan, set collision course with that monster. Full speed." Ryan Beck hesitated for only a moment before his training took over. "Collision course programmed, Captain. 60 seconds to impact." The Thunderstrike, accelerated toward the massive Devourer bioship like a missile, its crew preparing for what seemed like certain death. But as they approached the alien creature, something unexpected happened. The combined fire from the Earth fleet finally began to take effect. The constant bombardment had weakened the bioship's armor enough for the weapons to penetrate to vital organs inside the creature. The massive Devourer began to lose power and drift off course, no longer able to control its descent toward the planet. "Pull up, Ryan," Jake ordered as he saw the enemy ship beginning to die. "We don't need to ram it after all." The Thunderstrike changed course at the last possible moment, flying past the dying bioship as it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The largest Devourer in the system was destroyed, and the remaining alien vessels fled toward deep space rather than face the superior firepower of the human fleet. Admiral Richardson's voice came over the communication system with relief and pride. "Outstanding work, Captain Morrison. Your crew has made first contact with an alien species and saved them from extinction. That's quite a day's work." Jake opened a communication channel to the planet below, where High Counselor Xylan and the surviving Zorathians were emerging from their underground shelters. The alien leader's crystalline features showed amazement and gratitude as he looked up at the human ships that had saved his people. "Captain Morrison, Admiral Richardson, the Zorathian people owe you a debt that can never be repaid," Xylan said, with emotion in his voice. "You traveled across the darkness of space to help beings you had never met, risking your own lives to save ours. We will remember this act of courage and compassion for all the generations to come." Dr. Carter immediately began coordinating with Zorathian scientists to share medical aid and technology, helping the aliens rebuild their devastated world. The peaceful species offered to share their advanced knowledge of science and space travel in return for human protection against future Devourer attacks. Pete Sullivan worked with Zorathian engineers to establish the first human outpost in alien space, a joint research station that would serve as the foundation for future cooperation between the two species. The station would also serve as an early warning system against Devourer incursions in this part of the galaxy. 6 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new joint research station, watching human and Zorathian ships working together in the space around planet Vraxx. The alien world had healed from the Devourer attack, its cities rebuilt and its people thriving once again. High Counselor Xylan joined him at the observation window, his crystalline features reflecting the light of the system's sun. "Captain, when we first sent out our distress call, we hoped that someone, somewhere in the galaxy, might hear us and care enough to help. We never imagined that help would come from a species as remarkable as humanity.